Glad to see Tony P here this morning. I was kind of worried maybe he had to get like 4 jobs with the wedding coming up. Haven't. So glad to see you here, baby. Always just so happy to see you here. If you haven't figured out, today's theme is love. I'm going to be reading Matthew 22:36 through 40. This is from the NIV. Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And this is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbors as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on these 2 commandments. This struck me pretty hard a couple of years ago, as people like me and Andy like to delve into what does the original Greek text say, look at the historical time period of when Paul was writing to this specific church. And Jesus says, here's these 2 things. Everything else kind of hinges on that. And I think sometimes we definitely try to make things a little too hard on ourselves as far as Christian faith goes. And so after seeing that, and looking at it and kind of meditating on it, I kind of wanted to speak about that. I'm going to read a quote from Mother Teresa. The greatest disease in the West today is not TB or leprosy. It's being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for. We can cure physical diseases with medicine, but the only cure for loneliness, despair, and hopelessness is love. There are many in the world who are dying for a piece of bread, but there are many more dying for a little love. After the past couple years, especially, a lot of us have been really separated from our families and our friends. I kind of think that seems almost a little bit too true today. And I know growing up, I didn't have the greatest, how should I say it, showing of how to love. My dad shot guns off in the trailer because he was mad. My mom's burned a few couches because she was mad. That's the kind of environment I grew up in. So I'm going to discuss some different types of love, because we just use the word love, but that really can mean so many things at different times. So the first one I'm going to discuss is storge. And this is a family love. This is like, whenever you go to your mom's house, you just feel at home. You can go into the fridge and get whatever you want, that kind of love. C.S. Lewis was pretty big into all the different Greek words of love. And he wrote, it's something that anyone can feel. It's as natural as falling asleep at night. It's more comfortable and least ecstatic of all loves. He even equates it to like some soft slippers or that comfortable chair you have at home. You just kind of fall into it and everything feels right. But as I was saying earlier, I didn't grow up in a household that had that kind of experience. So I don't really understand this type of love. And since I don't have that foundation, all the other type of loves are even harder for me to kind of grasp. Another love is Eros love. I think all of us know Eros, what that means. That's when, Andy's doing dishes and his wife is like, wow, right? That's some pretty good stuff when he's doing dishes, right? I'm not going to delve too much into that. I think we all know what that is. The other love is philia love, and this is kind of the friendship love. And I'm going to go ahead and steal some ideas from the Greek philosopher Aristotle on this. He has 3 types of friendship love. And the first one's utility. The utility is like everybody at Madison Academy knows who Lynn is because he runs the corral and he holds the chicken biscuits. So everybody knows him, everybody talks to him. That doesn't mean they're best buddies though, but everybody knows Lynn. And then there's a second phase that is a friendship of pleasure or the fun friends. We've all got friends that when we want to do something fun, we give them a call, but when we got really big issues, we don't call our fun friends. So there's a second level there of, yes, you have a more intimate relationship with them than you would, say, the janitor at work. But by no means are you going to open your heart and pour it out to them. And of course, level 3 is that kind of friendship where you're actually connected. You're actually, hey, I've got some struggles. I need to talk to somebody. Or, hey, I got some really good news, but I just don't want the world to know about it, so I'm going to share this with you. And I found this kind of interesting because I've never thought about it, but that's true my whole life. You do kind of have different levels of friendships and how you interact with people. And then the last love I want to discuss, of course, is the agape love. This love is unconditional love, which is really hard for me to understand. Agape is the love from within. This is the love that comes without any boundaries or direction. This seems that would be very hard for most of us to grasp. But it's something that you don't necessarily receive anything in return. Pretty much in every other love, there's a reciprocation. But with agape love, with godly love, God loves us even when we're rejecting him. And we need to try to be that way when we're dealing with people as well. There's a guy, I don't know how I stumbled on this guy. His name's Stephen Charnock, and he was a Puritist. And while I was doing this study, I stumbled on some of his writings. And he wrote, talking about self-love, because we're supposed to love neighbors and love ourselves. It's talking about self-love is the law of nature. Even animals have self-love. And this is basically self-preservation. When we get hungry, we eat. When we get sleepy, we sleep. Unless you're Brian Privet, he doesn't sleep. There's basic things that we do that a lot of times we don't even think about because we want to be healthy. We want to live as long as we can, so we try to take care of ourselves. And then there's the sinful self-love. Like, I love Mountain Dew and Reese's Cups. That's like, if you want me to help you bury a body, just show up with Mountain Dew and Reese's Cups. That's not a healthy love, though. That's a very bad love. I kind of joke about that, but there's actually some truth to that. And I think thinking about that, obviously there being two types of self-love, then what about a third type of love? And that's when God says, love yourself. And that's a supernatural self-love. And as weird as this sounds, the cure for the sinful self-love is godly self-love. And I was really trying to grasp what does that mean to me, and to actually get the idea of, hey, I'm going to try to die to my old self so I can love myself. And I know that doesn't make sense when you say it out loud, but that's what we need to do. We need to be trying to separate ourselves from our sinful selves so we can go ahead and show godly love. Like I said in the beginning, if you kind of don't have a good foundation to begin with, it's really hard to understand God's love. And that's something that maybe if we've been going to church for 20 years or 2 years, we take that for granted. We take for granted a lot of times that there's people that if you've never been raised with a father and you go to talk about Father's love, God's love, they have no comprehension of that. They can't understand that because they've just never had it. So what I kind of wanted to encourage basically was that when you do go to interact with people of all different walks of life, maybe stop and think about, not even stop and think about, stop and take time to listen to their background and to their history and take that into consideration when you're trying to share God's love. Because sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do. And the other big thing I took away from this is we forget about the love yourself. I fell off the bandwagon of eating healthy, and so I was telling some of my friends, and all three friends specifically said, don't beat yourself up, just start doing better. Lynn can do something really bad, and I can forgive him for that. But if I eat Reese's Cups and drink Mountain Dew, I'll beat myself up weeks for that. And out of this, I kind of got, that's not necessarily a godly thing. That, if God can forgive us like that, maybe we should start working a little bit harder to forgive ourselves like that. That doesn't mean to continuously sin, so grace can abound. But I think a lot of times we do tend to just beat ourselves up over something that God's already forgot about. He's already forgiven us for it. In his mind, it doesn't exist. So in the very end, I just like to go ahead and say my interpretation of love God with your whole heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself is love God and don't be a jerk. That's it. Thank you.